What's up, friends? Today we're checking out the latest album by Paramore. The album is called This Is Why. It sees Paramore returning to their more rock, third-wave emo-esque roots. Their last album was very poppy and not my favorite personally, After Laughter. Excited to check this album out. Paramore's a cool band. We'll be looking at this album from the perspective of a producer and a songwriter. Let's get it. Hearing the intro in context of like a full album makes a lot more sense because it has such a long instrumental intro before the vocals come in, and that really establishes like, hey, it's gonna be a rock album. Like, do you hear the guitar? Do you hear the bass? Rock. Some really cool drum work on this album that I didn't notice before. They changed the beat basically in each section, which is really interesting. A lot of cool ghost notes. Good drumming. Like it. Yeah, fun song. Good song to start an album. High energy. I like how it transfers from kind of a lower energy verse to a really high energy chorus. Has some cool kind of psychedelic moments going on, especially in the pre-chorus and bridge sections. Great performances from everyone, honestly. I like the synthesizers that come in on that second chorus. They're cool. The drumming's really great. The bass riff is great. Guitar's great. I've done a full reaction to this song separately in another video. You can check that out. But yeah, they did a really good job on this song. Really established kind of the overall tone of what to expect from this album. Really cemented like, okay, this is how we're going to sound right now, you know? It's not quite that same pop-punk third-wave emo vibe we had before. There's a little more of like a Riot Girl element here. We're going to have some psychedelic elements. It's going to be different. It's still going to be cool, but it's going to be different than what you expected. We have a lot of similar gang vocals that we did on After Laughter. You know, they're really introducing the tone of the album in a good way in that song. Okay, the news is next up.
Shut your eyes, but it won't go away.
I like the back and forth between the vocals and the chorus. They're really cool. You know, these doubled vocals and then this really processed, like, filtered vocal doing the turn off the news. Kind of more shouted than sung. It's cool.
Exploitative, performative, informative, and we don't know the how.
The songwriting's interesting on that song because they're really focused on, like, the effect that news media has on us, which is pretty relevant for sure, but it feels like a take that I might have heard before. I think the bridge is just kind of like whatever, personally. I think the chorus is really a jam. I like what's going on in the bridge in terms of music. Like, I like the sounds of the bridge. I just don't know if I love the informative, performative, provocative, rhetorical. Like, it's just not my favorite, like, little one-word phrases. Feels very, like, punk, though. Very punk, very Riot Girl, which works. Almost sounds like something you would expect from, like, the Scott Pilgrim movie, you know? That song. Which, some people just love the heck out of the Scott Pilgrim movie, so that, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's cool. Yeah. It's a jam. It's a jam. Almost like too much of a jam for the subject matter. Although, you know, I guess the subject matter affects a lot of people. I just don't really watch the news, so it's a little less relatable for me personally, because I'm just like, I don't know. Is the news pretty crazy? Mainly watch YouTube and anime. Running out of time's next up. And again, nothing against the song as a whole, just the lyrics to me aren't as interesting because I can't relate. And so a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, totally. And I'm just like, cool. If you love it, you love it. And I mean, there's no denying it's something that's affecting a lot of people, making them do crazy stuff. Running out of time.
Said I was gonna take some flowers to my neighbor, but I ran out.
Love how the guitars work off of each other in that whole verse. It's so freaking sick. Like, just sounds kind of discordant in a really nice way. I love the second verse. It has this little like interruption in between that you just don't expect. It's so different from the first verse. And then it goes back into that pre-chorus and then chorus that has a big which is also just so fun. It's cool.
She's always running out of time. I'm always running out of.
I like a lot of things about that song. I like how the chorus is so much simpler than the verse in terms of the instrumentation. It's a lot more straightforward. So you have this kind of complicated thing going on because of all the guitars doing different things on top of each other, creating a kind of discordant vibe. And then the chorus is just, I'm always running out of time. I like the different perspectives too within the lyrics, you know? She's saying, I just don't have time for this. And then as you hear the explanations of why she doesn't have time for this, you're like, you just don't have good time management skills. Like, it becomes really apparent. And I like the vulnerability there. You know, she's saying, I'm always running out of time. And then you look at the lyrics and you're like, well, yeah, you are. You don't know how to handle your time, which is okay. Like, it's okay to relax. But she's like, yeah, I don't like to keep a watch on. And you're like, whoa. Yeah, if you don't have a watch, you're going to run out of time really quickly. You're going to be like, where did the day go? Which isn't a bad practice either, because we get kind of obsessive over time. So I like the different angles taken around the song. Like, it's really viewing a concept from a bunch of places, which is so cool. Chorus is phenomenal. I'm always running out of time. And then the I, and then the background vocals too. She's always running out of... It's so cool, like the double they do, and the way they kind of filter it to make it sound not quite like the primary vocal. Not as harsh. There's a little bit of distortion added too onto her vocal, which adds a nice touch to everything, especially on the chorus. Yeah. Overall, just sick. Sick song. Dig it. It's one of those songs that I feel like listening to it closer, like the more you pay attention to it, the more you're wowed. Say como ça is next. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Don't speak French.
My social life, a chiropractic appointment. Sit still long enough to listen.
I'm not sure how I feel yet about the kind of spoken word vocals during that verse. Really stylistic choice there. And the lyrics aren't bad. I just don't know, because the chorus is so freaking catchy. I'm like, oh my goodness, this has the potential to be this really big pop song. And instead it's not. You know?
I know that regression is rarely rewarded. I still need a certain.
I really like the bridge. Da, 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 da. Kind of like the descending scale there. Sweet. A nice addition of harmonies there throughout that last part, that last chorus. Oh, that chorus is so catchy. The song parts on this are so good. I'm just not sure how I feel about the spoken word, but I mean, it's the stylistic choice they went with, and I don't think it's bad. It's just, I don't know. It just doesn't, it kind of falls on me a little weird. Probably something else to get used to. Probably love it, you know, after a few weeks of listening to this album. Of course, it's hecka catchy, though. Hecka catchy. And all the song parts on this are really good. And then there's this like nice little part during the second verse where they have an acoustic guitar come in for a moment, and it sounds really good and sweet against that really electric, discordant vibe. You know? Yeah. There's a lot of dissonance throughout this album, and I like it. You know? It feels rough. It feels rough around the edges. And it feels right, you know? It's like the right type of roughness. I don't even know what that song's about. No idea. But I dig it. Real consistent so far. Like, I feel like the vibe of the album hasn't changed. They've really captured a feeling and made it consistent throughout every song. Big Man, Little Dignity is next up. I love those woodwind type breathy instruments at the very beginning of the song. They really add this nice vibe, and they still fit within what's going on, but they offer us a little bit of differentiation because we haven't heard anything but basically like rock instruments throughout this album. The breaking kind of crack on the word no offense, on like that phrase. So cool. I love her vocals on this song so much. They sound so good. So clean and raspy. They go back and forth, and it's a nice balance.
Big man who little.
The use on synths throughout the song is so cool. Just adding them in to replace woodwinds at certain points, and then these kind of high synths they have during the chorus, and then the harmony vocals that come in as background things to add this nice layer of atmosphere. It's sweet. So sick. Like how they bring in that woodwind in a big way at the end there. Sounds like a flute or a clarinet. Not 100% sure though. Not an expert in identifying woodwind instruments. Yeah, that song's sweet. Big man. Ooh, ooh. Sweet. It's such a good tune. And the verses are great. The bridge is great. Everything's great about that song. Really. Instrumentation's really well thought out. And it sounds like a song I want to listen to again and again. Like the chorus isn't annoyingly catchy. It's just catchy. It's catchy in a way that you're like, oh yeah, like I'm putting this in a playlist. I could listen to this multiple times. Well, great A-side. Dig it a lot. You First is next up.
For all of us, and I hope, I just hope.
A lot of stuff they're doing to her vocals and a lot of the guitar work, especially at the beginning of this song, really give me self-titled vibes. I feel like this song could have fit just as well on their self-titled as it does on this album, but it still fits with the vibe of this album.
She comes for you first. Oh!
The lyrics on this song are so emo. Just, I'm a stray animal, and we're gonna have like things come back to us. We're gonna have karma come back to us, but I hope yours comes first. I hope you suffer. Like that's so emo, you know? Releasing that anger.
Never said I wasn't petty. I never said I wasn't.
I just noticed the shaker there at the end. The ch-ch-ch-ch. It's cool. Probably there for more parts of the song, but has this like really nice deep tone to it. I really like that bridge. I love double bridges, and I like that switch up because it goes from this, you know, really polite tone to a really harsh and intense tone. Yeah, which is the nice thing throughout the song. You know, you have this nice contrast of harsh and like pretty. You know, you have these really clean moments, then you have these really harsh moments. The pre-chorus to the chorus. Pre-chorus, you're really light and feathery, and then you go harsh and you're back down to earth. It's sweet, and it fits the vibe, and it's a vibe. It's dope. Figure 8 is next up.
I don't know how to start. I don't know how to. All for your sake.
Love that pre-chorus to chorus. You got the call and response between these more gang vocals and the individual vocal, and then during the chorus you have this nice doubled vocal. Yeah, it's cool production. A lot more big during that chorus too.
You'd be wise if you thought twice.
That cool little shaker was back at the end of the bridge again. Also, that bridge is really powerful. I like how intense it gets. It's cool. Love the instrument there at the end. Kind of funky sounding. I feel like those funky sounding moments, those dissonant moments, are what really set this album apart sonically from the other Paramore albums. And that song was no exception. Cool song. Yeah, a lot of Riot Grrrl influences, a lot of pop punk influences, a lot of emo vibes, especially in those lyrics, blaming someone else for what's going on in your life. So toxic. Love it. I love it. I like those toxic emotions, and expressing those toxic emotions in a really bombastic way is, to me, what makes emo so special. And I love that. I just love it. I do it a lot in my music too. I had the whole album where it's just like all toxic emotions, you know? All toxic feelings toward other genders, toward people. It's just no one's Giovanni, and my other album's pretty toxic on being depressed and stuff, bashing my head. So I'm a huge fan. Liar's next up. Liar.
And oh, my love, I lied to you.
I love how the drums make this song move, especially in that chorus. You have these tom fills in between things. You have these really active hi-hat patterns. It really works in a nice way. It's nice.
Disappeared, naked when I'm here and what?
It's interesting because this is like the slowest song on the album so far, but it still moves. Like the drums are moving, the guitars are moving, the bass riffs are moving quite a bit. Even the vocals have like a lot of movement going on, but it still feels very chill and relaxed.
Love is not an easy thing to admit.
I like how this song develops lyrically a lot, because that chorus of, oh my love, I lied to you, but you always knew the truth and I never needed to. When you first hear it, you're like, oh, she like broke his heart, like she was being mean to him. But then you realize in the bridge that she just loved him, and she didn't need to hide the fact that she loved him because he knew all along. And it's super cute. It's like this super cute song. What a good love song. Crave is next up.
I know the feeling will come to an end, so I
At first I thought this song's gonna be another slow song, and then hearing that chorus, Crave, with her more belty vocals that are doubled, it felt like, oh, okay, like, oh, this is a more active song. Like, just because of that heavier, more energetic vocal, it feels more alive.
second feel the present, future, and the past.
I feel like the song in general is a lot cleaner than the other songs on this album. It's a lot more like resolve-y, a lot less dissonant. Feels a little apart from a lot of what we heard so far. You can hear, especially in the bridge, because in the bridge you're not doing really funky stuff. It's really clean. It's really straightforward. It's interesting.
Do it again, all again.
Okay. Crave. Interesting song. Dug it. So it felt really different from the rest of the album, though. I guess these two last songs, Liar and Crave, were a lot chiller, We had a lot of dissonance, and now we're coming to more of a resolute feeling, and that kind of throws me off. There are some nice harmonies, nice setups, really nice sonic atmosphere setup. Just doesn't really match what we've heard so far, which is just, it's interesting. I feel like this B-side in general has been a little less matchy. More so 8 and 9 tracks. 6 and 7 are still pretty... The first 7 tracks are all like one album, and these last 2 tracks have been like a different album, almost type of thing. Feel more of what we'd expect from Hayley Williams' solo stuff than it would from Paramore. But the instrumentation is still very Paramore. Like, you still get those like real active drums. It's just, you don't have that kind of chaotic feeling that you've had for the rest of the album. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to go from, a chaos to a more resolute feeling toward the end. And if so, they're accomplishing it, for sure. Thick Skull is the last song. I really dig that post-chorus instrumentation. The brr, brr, brr. It's cool. Interesting.
Come on out with your hands up.
Interesting with the bridge, going back to that more toned down vibe that we had in the verse. Really scaling it back, having this repeating mantra.
Hit over the head.
Nice. Nice ending to the album. Dug it. I was nervous at first that it was going to be another like slow, broody song and it wasn't going to pick up, and then we'd end the song really slow, end the album really slow, and have those last tracks be really laid back. And so I'm really grateful that it picked up, like how in that last chorus they brought the vocals up an octave, had them belted out. I think that really fit. Good ending song in the end. Yeah. Real vulnerable, examining oneself, and the lessons that take us a long time to learn. Thought that was a cool aspect to it, those lessons. Yeah, it was a cool album. I'm excited to listen to it more. I feel like this is one of those albums that is sure to grow on you, especially the first 7 songs with that really dissonant vibe. And I did like song 8 and 9 and 10 as well. I just feel like those first 7 songs fit really, really, really well together, and then 8, 9, and 10 still fit, but it's not as, it doesn't click quite as much. And maybe that was with purpose. It's supposed to be like the third act. It's supposed to be more of a resolution, and they wanted that vibe, in which case they totally succeeded, and no pressure on them whatsoever. Liked the production on it, liked how the guitars were treated, cool vocal techniques used throughout, a variety of vocal techniques used throughout to emphasize the belts with doubling, some really nice harmonies that blended together in a beautiful way, interesting guitar lines that kind of fused with each other and overlapped, causing a little bit of dissonance. I have to give it more listens, but upon first listen, I definitely think this is one of the better Paramore albums. Definitely on the top half. Not sure if it's the best yet. I'll have to listen to it more, but it's very good. I really like it. If you've enjoyed my thoughts about Paramore and want to hear more of a discussion, I've got a podcast linked in the description that I did with some friends where we went over all of the Paramore albums. They don't include this one. You can get all my thoughts on all of that album. It's a lot more brief because I'm sharing the time with 3 of my friends. Also, if you enjoyed this, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Check out my music. My album, Bashing My Head Through a Wall, is folk influenced by third wave emo, which Paramore is part of third wave emo for sure. And check out my other Paramore reaction. You might like it. Thanks so much. Catch you on the flip.
Strawberries in July, 'cause I could use a break from the messes that I made.